Okay, so shall we start? Okay, so it's a pleasure to introduce Dr. Hokke, who is the CEO and co-founder of Game Tailors. With a background in computer science, he combines scientific thinking with creative game design and recently artificial intelligence. Over the past 8 years, Olivier has overseen the development of more than 50 serious games, working with partners like Dutch Ministry, TU Eindhoven, the Art Foundation, and several large Dutch publishers. He champions the use of intrinsic motivation in education to make learning effective and fun. So, Oliver, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. The digital floor, I would say. Um, Great. Can everyone hear me well? Yeah?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the introduction. Um, so, yeah, my talk is called Scaling Intrinsically Motivating Serious Games Through Modular Design and AI. Um, so, Game Tailors, what we do is we make innovative custom learning experiences. And what we try to do is to make learning fun through games, simulations, and web apps. Um, the services that we do is consultancy, brainstorm sessions, but the main thing that we really do is game design and game development for education. Some of the expertise is games on desktop, mobile, tablets, but we also build like web apps and stuff. To give you a little bit of a background, we founded Game Tailors in 2016 as two students of TU Delft. Um, that's around here. And then nowadays we've grown to about 14 people, which is pretty cool. And it's a really, really great team. But we always approached serious game design from an entertainment perspective. And we learned a lot along the way. It's now been 10 years. So we started with the idea that if we make educational games, we just add like sugar to it. Like you could say sugar coated broccoli. Like we want to hide the boring learning. As long as they practice more, we're good. We need to compete with games like Candy Crush. So let's use all their tools. But at some point we realized, well, this is extrinsic motivation. And this can be a problem, which I'll show you later. And learning is intrinsically motivating if we enjoy the act of learning itself. So there was this meta-analysis that reviewed 128 studies and confirmed that extrinsic rewards tend to have a significant negative effect on intrinsic motivation, especially for tasks involving interest and enjoyment. So that means that someone who was interested in a subject may lose that interest due to extrinsic motivators. And that is something that was quite mind-blowing. And it caused quite a shift in the way that we thought about game design for education. So our vision is now learning should be the reward. The content should be interesting. We should make the content interesting. So in that sense, now our mission is make playful learning the norm. But to make playful learning the norm, there are quite some obstacles. Because the way we used to build applied games or serious games is that we built them from scratch, which makes them very hard to maintain. And every time we have a new client, a new project, we have a new game. It's a new code base. It's new art. Everything is new. And to maintain this is very difficult. It takes a lot of time to build this. And obviously, this is also very expensive because building games involves a lot of different expertise. So we needed a solution because our mission is to make playful learning the norm. That's where we built a platform that's called Learn Plus. And this platform allows us, our game developers, game designers, but also our clients to work together on a web platform where we can create and update games live on the web. Then we have a game player that just plays it. It's on the phone, it's on the desktop, or whatever device you need. And then there is always a portal where teachers can follow progress. Because the thing is, we learned that a lot of these games that we built had a lot in common. Sometimes they had this one piece that was unique, maybe one piece that is unique, but a lot of things that were similar. So why would we keep reinventing the wheel? So this platform is like a Lego box of all the different modular components that we might need whenever we have to make custom-made games. Uh, Ignore the circle, that's a mistake. But to give you a quick sense of the game structure, usually that we build in this platform, is there is some kind of progression flow. You need to learn something, right? So we have this knowledge tree through which you progress as a player. And each node in this progress tree can have some kind of environment that you can navigate through with missions. This could be a map, this could be a room, this could be a user interface through which you navigate. The environment can be anything. These missions that you play are built up that could be potentially non-linear, and they're very modular. That means you boot up a mission, you do something like chatting with a character based on the decision that you make. You do something else or do something else, and at some point the mission will end either in a failure, a cancel, or a succession. That's a very simple way of saying it. There are many ways to do this, but we'll take it from here. So now the circle actually makes sense, because what I want to say is these activities, these missions, they're very easily swappable. So to give you an idea, we have, for instance, an activity that we built, a chat. It's where you chat with characters. It allows you to interact, learn things or test things, interrogate suspects, and do some assessments, role play. And we can style these very differently. So as you can see, there are 3 examples from different games. But then there's also a click activity. It's very simple. You just have an image. You have a few hotspots where you can click. This could either be the answer to a question. It could just help you navigate somewhere. Maybe you find an item, all these kinds of things. Lots of possibilities. And then the drag and drop activity. That's where you, for instance, have to sort things, put things in order, answer questions, maybe collect items. Also, lots of possibilities. So even these 3 little activities already cover a lot of applications of things that we might want to build in our games. But then we had some extra builds. So for instance, the control panel. These are inspired based on things that you might expect in games for escape rooms. And you have some buttons, you have some combination locks, and you find a code somewhere, or maybe a partial code, and you try it. Oh, you fail, try different things. For that, we create the control panel activity where we can just create any kind of element that you can interact with, like a slider or a combination lock. But then, nowadays, things have gotten even easier to make things really custom made. It used to be the case that a lot of the time we built also custom activities for our clients because they had some kind of niche topic that we had to cover, for which there was possibly a custom activity that we needed to build. Something like simulating how electricity runs through cables, whatever you can think of. But we used to spend a lot of time developing these. But then now there is AI, where you can just say, hey, build me this activity. And what's really cool is that AI is very good nowadays in just, this focused creation of a single activity. And by giving the AI the right context, it can easily interact very well with our game system. So it could manipulate things, give you items, unlock things, etc. So this platform is quite unique in the sense that it allows us to be fast and agile in the creation of teaching material in our systems. It's very cost effective because we only focus on developing those parts that are very specific to the topic. And it will be very easy, because we have this platform, to just prototype, to just start very soon, very quick, prototype things, iterate. And that's always the best way to develop games, because you need to test also with the audience, target audience. So the system is also built around the idea that we want to make things intrinsically motivating. So we don't do much with points and badges and leaderboards. We can add them if that helps, but usually we don't, because we mainly want to focus on the interesting parts of the content. Giving inspiration of things that we can build, like escape rooms, role-playing games, real-world simulations, onboarding experiences, these kinds of things. So to give you an example, In Practice is a game where students refresh their basic medical knowledge throughout the years. So they're doing the study and they learn a lot in the first year, but then the second year, they still need to remember all that stuff. And that often gets forgotten by the students. So for that, they wanted to have a little game where they once in a while had to just update their knowledge or keep it active. So that's the game that we also built in this platform, Learn Plus. To give you an idea of some of the images, you can already see, like, there is this chat activity or point and click activity. And then the second example is, for instance, an onboarding of interns for a nursing home, where we used, I think in this case, ChatGPT to generate these beautiful images of the real location. So this is the actual location, but we made it a little bit more gamey by just, using some kind of art style to transfer it on that image. And now it was very easy to create these different storylines, conversations with Blur in this case. And this is an example of an activity that we were able to create, or a mission that allows users to demonstrate that they know how to wash their hands and that they should never forget this. Right? The game is not telling them, now you should wash your hands. No, you just navigate towards the location you have to be. And then if you don't have washed your hands, the game will respond in a way that will help you realize, oh, in real life, this would have been a problem. So with AI, we can do a lot more, especially in the near future. So one of the things that we could think of is maybe even ask it to create these missions, maybe entire games. At this point, that's a bit too much to ask, because generating these images and having it reason around where to put things, we're not there yet, but close. But perhaps personalized learning paths, that's something that definitely could work, where you have like this branching knowledge tree, where at some point the game might think, hey, you did very well here, let's just add some content. You don't need AI per se for this, but it could definitely enhance the quality. So let's talk about the challenge that we're working on soon, together with Parma University, which is the challenge of communicating with patients in plain language. So usually you would have a book which says, when you explain things to a patient and their family, you'll need to use plain language. And the student might nod while reading this, yeah, sure, that's definitely what I need to do. But will they? Well, probably not, because you need to practice. And that's where the game will come in, which is where students will be able to try it out and experiential learning. So one of the things we're thinking of is, as an inspiration, a game called Poetry for Neanderthals. It's absolutely lovely game, really fun to play with your family or friends. The idea is that you have to explain a concept to your teammates, but you're only allowed to use words with one syllable. So very short words. And whenever you make a mistake, someone from the other team is allowed to whack you with a baseball bat. It's not a real baseball bat, it's inflated. So no worries, there won't be bumps in your head. But it's a really fun game. But this idea, you could use it for something similar in this concept where you have the case of students talking to each other, but there are some forbidden words, and the other teammates have to understand what the medical term is that you're talking about, while other team is able to whack you on the head when you say something that's jargon. But another idea would be to use maybe AI. So you can do a single player talk to an AI, converse with the AI, and maybe see some rating of understanding. Maybe the AI is pretends to be a patient or a family member, and while you talk, you see its understanding rating going down because you use too much jargon. These are the things that we're thinking of for this concept, but we'll see where it leads. So that's all for my presentation for now, but I welcome all the questions that you have.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your precise, technical, but at the same time accessible presentation. So thank you very much, Dr. Hokke. So the question time is at the end of the session. So is it okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So thank you again. Okay, I can introduce the next speaker, who is Micòl Beseghi, who is Associate Professor of English Language, Linguistics and Translation at the University of Parma. Her main research interests and publications concern audiovisual translation, didactic audiovisual translation, translator training, advising in language learning, and learner autonomy. Micòl, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Virginia. So in this presentation, I propose a didactic audiovisual translation approach to medical English, focusing on two media accessibility modes: subtitling for the deaf and hard of hearing audiences, and audio description for the blind and partially sighted audiences. So I will outline the theoretical framework, explain why medical TV series can be an effective source of authentic input, and consider how SDH and audio description tasks can support the teaching of specialized language while at the same time fostering accessibility awareness. So I'll start from a simple observation. Medical English is not just a terminology. It is in fact a high-stakes communication where lexical precision, clarity, and register matter, because misunderstandings can have consequences. At the same time, it is deeply multimodal. We interpret speech, verbal language, along visuals, gestures, procedures, instruments, monitors, and so on. So it is not surprising that learners, students, often encounter medical English through audiovisual input. So the pedagogical question is, how can we transform this familiar audiovisual exposure into structured learning? My modest proposal in this presentation is to use actually authentic clips as the basis for meaningful tasks that can be professionally relevant, interactive, and obviously oriented to inclusion. So I position my proposal within didactic audiovisual translation, DAT, which is the pedagogical use of audiovisual translation in language education, mainly through captioning and revoicing. So basically that moves beyond the simply watching videos, in the sense that students become producers of meaning while developing at the same time mediation skills and multimodal competence. From a methodological point of view, that fits well with communicative and task-based pedagogical approaches. Moreover, the use of authentic audiovisual input plus technology creates context-bound real-world learning. Plus, these creative and engaging practical tasks typically generate motivation, possibly intrinsic motivation, as well as language awareness. And finally, from a cognitive perspective, they activate higher order thinking, which means that students do not simply understand, but they also analyze and create. So why subtitling for the deaf and hard of hearing and audio description for language learning and for medical English in this case? We have to say that in general, a key development in that was a move from classic AVT modes such as subtitling and dubbing to media accessibility modes. Media accessibility adds a social dimension in the sense that students produce texts that make content accessible to specific audiences. So mediation becomes central. What is heard becomes written, and what is seen becomes spoken. I'm referring to SDH and AD. In particular, in SDH, we condense and segment dialogue or language in general for readability, so for accessibility. And we translate relevant sound information, paralanguage, music, sound effects, into words. Basically, we strive for lexical precision under space-time constraints, which makes it very challenging. Audio description is instead intersemiotic. So basically, we prioritize what is visually relevant, salient, and render it in clear, neutral language, focusing specifically on vocabulary, precise vocabulary and descriptive accuracy. Both, interestingly, enhance metalinguistic and multimodal awareness, as well as integrated skills, because we watch videos, but we also speak, we also write, so it's very integrated. And all of these skills are relevant in professional communication. So we said that medical English requires lexical precision, clarity, and register control. So we can establish a sort of parallelism with SDH and AD, which require students to use the correct terminology to keep coherence and maintain precision, always under time-space constraints. This is the main point. And the tasks simulate real professional communicative needs, for example, summarizing a case or giving instructions or describing procedures. Finally, and importantly, I would say, bringing accessibility into the classroom has a strong ethical value, I believe. Also in medicine, where inclusion and understandable communication are or should be part of professional responsibility. So why medical TV series? Well, first of all, they are authentic enough, let's say, to expose learners to specialized vocabulary. routines, interactional patterns, but also pedagogically exploitable because we can select short, focused extracts. They are highly multimodal. So visual procedures, equipment, sound design provide really rich cues both for AD and SDH. And from a teaching perspective, these clips allow both sequencing and scaffolding. So this is very useful to support learning. These are some of the, let's say, most popular TV series. Of course, there are others. I will select just one example for today. So here I introduce the model that I took inspiration from. It's the DAT lesson plan model described by Talavan, Lertola, and Fernandez Costales in 2024. It is constructed, it revolves around the context of the lesson, the objectives, the materials and tools, the procedure, and the output. The design principles revolve around the authentic input, scaffolding, collaboration, and reflection. The core structure of each lesson is the presence of different stages. So a pre-task, a task, which is the actual production of the accessible text, and a post-task, so activities to do later. I think this model is very, flexible and adaptable to a variety of contexts, especially higher education context. In our case, we could say both language students and medical students. So here I outline an SDH sample lesson plan using a video from the medical TV show New Amsterdam. I don't know if you are familiar with this TV show, some of you, okay. So as you can see, I outline, first of all, the context, the objectives. The objectives are focused on vocabulary, so the use of accurate medical lexes, but also condensation and segmentation, and the use of a speaker ID and relevant sound effects, which is really important in SDH. I chose this clip in particular because, let's say, it is suitable. It combines high stakes interaction with a medically meaningful soundscape. So the use of sound effects in this clip is quite meaningful. The scene, which I'm going to show you, unfolds in a hospital setting where clinicians, both doctors and nurses, respond to an emergency. The sequence contains, as you will see, rapid actions, visible medical equipment, and an intense soundscape, leading to a clear turning point when the patient's condition stabilizes and the tension finally releases. So the clip is taken from YouTube. It's actually from the first episode of New Amsterdam, the pilot episode. The YouTube video is longer than the clip that I selected. Normally for these lesson plans, we should select videos that are 2 minutes long, or maybe 3, but not more. 2 minutes is better. The level is B2, okay, so the university students we are targeting in this lesson. So this is the clip that I extracted from the longer YouTube video.
Alon, you need to grab the oxygen mask. Alon, it is right above you. Helmet now.
I'm going in.
Just a little late. Oh! Get out of there now! Too late! I'm already in. There's too much blood. I can't see anything.
Heart rate is dropping. We need adrenaline.
Can't stop begging.
Adrenaline first, oxygen after. Okay, go. Okay, now push 10 mLs. Open wide.
That's too much.
Not for this kind of virus.
It'll send his heart rate too high.
Push 10 hard and fast. Right now. Lauren?
I know what you're gonna say. That was stupid. I violated protocol.
Lauren. Your glove.
Okay. So the lesson is built using this model, and we have the three, let's say, stages: the pre-task, the task, and the post-task. I'm going to show you. The output will be obviously the video with subtitles produced by the students working in pairs. So in the pre-task phase, this is a phase where the video is not shown yet to the students. We sort of build the situation by giving a warm-up. Normally, what I give is a question. And in this case, the question could be what's lost without sound. So students could brainstorm thinking about what conveys meaning in a hospital setting in terms of sound. The subsequent phase is the scaffolding phase, where we need to review the main conventions and constraints in SDH, for example, condensation strategies, segmentation, speaker identification, and the description of sound effects. In this pre-task phase, we can also activate vocabulary. So in the case of this clip, we can activate lexes regarding isolation, regarding personal protective equipment, regarding emergency procedure, actions, and so on. So basically, we provide a sort of mini glossary to activate vocabulary so that students will not guess during the activity and will feel, more confident, less anxious. Okay. In the task phase, we start with the viewing of the video, which is a sequence of viewing. So the first viewing is the video without sound, so that we can really foreground accessibility, so that students understand what is missing actually without sound. The second viewing is for gist, so to identify the main participants in the scene. The third viewing is for detail, and this is linguistically the most important step, in the sense that you must identify must-keep terms and must-caption sounds. So those words that have to be present in the subtitle, that can be condensed or, even worse, omitted. The core of the lesson is obviously the active production of SDH, normally for 90 seconds of the clip, so that it's not, too dense. And obviously keeping always the priorities in mind, keep medically salient terms accurate, and condense only non-essential talk, segment for readability, and include relevant sounds. So here you can see some examples of must-keep terms in the dialogue part. So the terms that you see in bold are, let's say, specialized items that should not be lost through condensation, but kept verbatim. For example, patient's condition or symptoms like hemoptysis, or specialized procedures, equipment like oxygen mask, personal protective equipment, elements such as helmet, and so on. These elements are not optional. The same can be said for must keep sounds. For example, patient sounds like coughing, gasping, but also the sounds that come from the machine, in this case, the EKG machine. So the beeping sound, which becomes blaring at some point, thus, signaling the urgency of the situation. So all of these sounds are fundamental in order to understand the scene, and they have to respect, accuracy in terms of medical terminology. The post-task phase is when learning becomes more evident, in the sense that the learners can review and discuss what they did by using a checklist, terminological accuracy, readability and segmentation, relevance of sound cues, coherence and register. And they can discuss, starting from the question, what did you keep verbatim and why? Which sounds did you describe? So this is an important phase in the sense that students can reflect on what they did from a linguistic point of view, and also from the point of view of accessibility. Okay, I need to rush. So the same scene, the same clip, can also be exploited for audio description. This doesn't mean that the two lessons are related. I mean, they could be complementary if you wanted, but they could also be two separate lessons, one or the other. I'm just suggesting that this clip can be used in both situations. So in the case of audio description, the objectives would be accurate terminology and concise scripting under time constraints. Okay, I'm going to skip the pre-task phase, which is kind of similar to the SDH phase. I just wanted to show you, in terms of audio description, we have a similar situation where students need to identify must-use terms. In this case, students translate images into medical language, a verbal language. And so by watching the clip, they'll have to identify medical must-use terms. For example, hazmat suit or paper surgical mask, isolation chamber, I don't know, bag valve mask, and so on. This is an example of a possible audio description for one part of the scene. Lauren pushes the injection into Alain's IV line. She stops pumping the bag valve mask and looks up at the flashing monitor. It switches from red to green. So it's very concise, it's very precise, but it describes very well what is happening, using at the same time precise terminology. So also in the case of the AD task, the post-task phase is quite important in terms of checking the accuracy and the relevance of what the students were able to produce. And here, the main question guiding the reflection could be which choice improved accessibility most and why. Okay. yes, I'm concluding. So we can say it's even though these examples are only examples, and there are so many other clips that we could select, what I wanted to suggest is that didactic audiovisual translation, especially through media accessibility, so through tasks like SDH and AD, is a flexible approach that can be adapted to different proficiency levels and to a variety of educational settings, including, in this case, higher education. Importantly, I mean, this is what I would like to highlight, most media accessibility tasks have an ethical and social dimension, because by designing these texts for specific audiences, students can develop empathy and an increased awareness of accessibility and inclusion, which are crucial values in healthcare communication. So to conclude, I would like to emphasize that didactic media accessibility has a significant potential in the teaching of medical English and probably other specialized languages, but it still deserves much more attention in research beyond the traditional general English, which is normally the focus of that. So I really think that future research should test these tasks with diverse learner groups in order to systematically measure benefits in terms of vocabulary acquisition, but also accuracy and clarity, as well as learner engagement and motivation, which is what I intend to do in the near future, I hope. Okay, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Micòl, for your presentation. Now it's time for some questions.
Yeah.
Any questions? Yeah, over there.
Okay. So, hi. My question is for Dr. Pop. I don't know if you can see me, but it doesn't really matter. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Hi.
See,
I thought the presentation was really interesting, as were all of these presentations. I love the idea of debates and role playing in the language classroom. It's something that I hope to do. I do a lot of presentations, but as some of my students here know, I'm trying to work towards debates. My question for you is, in terms of these ethical issues, have you ever had a situation where students didn't feel comfortable talking about these specific types of issues? And then how did you address that, if that has ever come up?
That's an interesting question. Well, as medical students, they need to face such situations sooner or later. But of course, there are aspects which we debated and they did not agree with the conclusion of the ethicist. And as a matter of fact, I also asked them, for example, in another type of activity, to go for the internet, to ChatGPT, and find out how is this situation, for example, for a mother who refuses vaccines for her child, or for a person who refuses blood transfusions, how are or what are they advised to do within this background of ethical principles, of patient autonomy, of doing good, not doing harm. So respecting respecting a person's cultural, religious norms, and trying to understand more, rather than seeing it as a clinical case, listening more, and trying to understand and finding alternative solutions, because alternative solutions exist. in most situations, but many doctors are, you know, reluctant to do that because they also have their own ethical, moral, religious values, their own culture. And it is important for them to know that this is what will expect them in their future profession for some of them. I had, yes, because I also asked them to, in the end of this experimental learning, let's say, I asked them to provide me feedback, and I wanted to know how much they changed from the beginning, not knowing things, and then after we discussed, if they sensed a kind of change in their ability to understand more the person behind just the patient and with the clinical aspect, but the person and their whole identity as such. And some of them said, no, I will not accept that. So it's up to them. But it's good to somehow motivate them to debate. Actually, my idea was not to teach them these principles. I tried to support them, but my idea was to teach them the language, you know, and to motivate them to communicate in one topic, in one subject that they really seemed interested in.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I apologize, I made an error in your name. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Yeah, over there. Just a sec.
Okay, thank you. So my question is for Dr. Beseghi, and I was wondering, should medical abbreviations in this type of activities be fully written down in SDH case in terms of cognitive development for students, or should we keep them as abbreviation and give a glossary to students? Because, for example, I was thinking, you brought the case of the mask, BVM mask, or for example, we usually encounter cases as BP dropping. So what's BP? Maybe they don't know. How should we behave in this case? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, the case of acronyms is very interesting. I would say there are two sides of the coin here, in the sense that from a learning perspective, learning to use acronyms can be very fruitful for learners themselves. But then again, the guidelines in subtitling say that we should use only acronyms that are widespread, well known. Here, I mean, we are dealing with a medical TV show, so we should at least take for granted that the people watching it are at least minimally interested in the medical field, so they could be familiar with certain abbreviations or acronyms that also tend to repeat themselves, that are repetitive. So in that case, I would go for the acronym. Instead, maybe in the case of rare disease or something like that, I would skip the acronym. However, we must also consider time and space constraints. So if there is no space for the entire word, let's say, it's better to use the acronym. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Other questions? No? Yep.
Very briefly, okay, as Micòl is speaking, I'm going to ask her my first question. Now, I was just wondering, because of course, I mean, I used to use, well, I still use a lot of television series and all that. And, the risk is always that students take too much, sorry about my voice, at face value what they hear, what they watch, in the sense that the language very often is very accurate, in this case as well. Dr. House, Scrubs, all these television series, the language is very medical, but very often it is misplaced. I mean, you know, when I used to do research on this, you know, I consulted with doctors to ask whether. So, are you planning? I mean, would you, you know, make students aware of these aspects before you begin your didactic unit kind
Yeah,
of
of
thing?
course. I mean, the selection of the clip is crucial. So we, well, first of all, the selection of the TV show is crucial because I don't know, for example, The Pit, a recent TV show, has been described by the medical field in general as very accurate. So it depends on the TV show, and it
Yeah.
depends on the scene we select. There might be also activities, you know, related to the linguistic realism of these scenes. So for sure, I mean, we should consider the actual accuracy of the source text.
Yeah.
But you know, the description, for example, this is not so important in the sense that we translate images into verbal languages. So it's more important in the case of SDH, because then we need to transcribe and condense dialogue. So we need to be aware whether, you know, the dialogue we are translating intralingually is actually medically accurate or maybe not so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's mine, and I keep the microphone. If no, as I have it, so that's now. I wanted to ask, you know, our Olivier a very brief question. Sorry, I come here today. I can. No, poor thing. I can stop. Hi, Olivier. Nice to see you. I mean, a very quick question, because on one of your slides you had, you know, playing, you know, with other people, either on Teams or on your telephone. Is that correct? And are these applications different in any way? Or, I mean, I missed a part of your presentation. So perhaps I apologize if you have actually already talked about it, but that's my curiosity as an interested party in what you are planning to do, because obviously, I don't know whether it was said that Olivier is part of the team. Okay.
Yes. So the question is like, what's the difference between the two? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the main difference in these two is that the other one, the one on the right on the slide that I had, would be with AI, where an AI would be interpreting whatever someone would be saying in the microphone. Whereas the last one was more about having interaction between students. So there's no AI involved, or at least it's not necessary, because the students would judge each other, because another student would be listening and has the objective to whack the other person, maybe with something physical or with a button that says whack, if they are using jargon.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. Now, yeah.
Just a sec, because there is a question from someone in the chat. So I wanted to ask if these games are available in English.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, we are developing, well, they are developing.
They are, okay.
In English.
So then I had a question for Dr. Hokke as well. So you said that your method is unique and that every new game is a project that starts from scratch. Okay, so I was curious, so it's just, you know, a matter of personal curiosity. What is your source of inspiration? Because you aimed at motivating people, but let's say what or who motivates you? I mean, the source of your inspiration once a new client asks you to create a new serious game. That is my question. Because I imagine that you must be extremely creative, but you should have a secret, probably.
I guess the secret might be having ADHD or something. Like I don't know, I have a very creative brain that just jumps all over the place. Whenever people say things, I just immediately jump to ideas. So it's hard to say that there is a specific inspiration, but I guess whatever I see in life, what I find interesting, that might stick with me, and then at some point I think, hey, that might be useful. So I don't have something very specific for you, I think, in this case. Like, oh, it's this person or that company. It's just I have a chaotic brain, and it's also very useful.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Other questions?
Thank you.
No? Okay.